Welcome back. There's actually been some welcome good news on COVID recently. The 7-day average of cases has dropped by about a third over the past 2 weeks, with almost every single state showing a decrease. Deaths, though, remain distressingly high, but they are the lagging indicator and should also soon come down. The country's governors have been on the front lines of this COVID battle, and that battle means they've been at the front lines of our many political divisions. In our recent NBC News poll, 70% of Americans said our differences were likely to grow, compared to just 27% who agreed that while we have differences, we always seem to come together in tough times. This morning, we have the rare pleasure of having a Democrat and Republican appear together. So joining me now, the Republican Governor Asa Hutchinson of Arkansas, Democratic Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey. You guys are here for the National Governors Association, which used to be sort of a powerful entity here. So, Governor Hutchinson, let me start with you. In this extraordinarily divisive times, what can you guys do to make the NGA actually effective in a bipartisan way? How do you do it?
Well, first of all, I'm glad to be on this show with Governor Murphy. He's vice chair, will next year be the chair of the NGA. For 114 years, the governors have been convening in a bipartisan way to work on problems and challenges. And let me assure everyone that there's still plenty of differences. Governor Murphy and I disagree on a lot of issues, and we can fight over those, but there's so many things as governors we could work together on. And this is what's great, is that we actually gather together as governors. We meet, we discuss, we set aside the things we can't agree on. But when you're looking at infrastructure, when you're looking at computer science, which is my initiative, when you're looking at the challenges of COVID, we benefit from discussing and working on these things together. And it's a common voice that we can have with the administration. So it's been very productive in a bipartisan way, and I think it's a good example for America.
Governor Murphy, what is realistic, though? You guys have a series of asks. What's realistic that can get agreed to?
I would echo much of what Asa has said. I actually think the NGA is a very formidable, effective organization, and I think governors have never mattered more. So if you look at the agenda this weekend, reiterate, infrastructure, important across the aisle, computer science education, which the chair has pioneered or led on the past year, COVID response to pick 3. Education more broadly. I'm an optimist. I think those numbers go the other way, Chuck. I think we're going to see more commonality. We're not going to agree on everything. That's just never going to happen. But I believe we're going to actually find more common ground as opposed to less.
Let's talk about preparing for the next wave. And I say it this way because we don't know how big it is, we don't know how small it is. But I guess I would like to think everybody's learned some lessons from what happened pre-Omicron. So if we assume we're going to get hit seasonally now, what do you need in the next 5 months before your summer? If it is another summer surge like you dealt with, what do you think needs to be done by the federal government to let you have the tools you need to handle your summer surge?
Well, first of all, we're delighted to see our cases going down. We just peaked last week. We hope the Omicron continues to go down. We believe that it will. And I do believe that we need to move from a pandemic status and mode of operation to more endemic, where we're normalizing, taking it very seriously, preparing. But I think we need to move out of the panic mode. I think we need to handle this to make sure that we continue with our normal lives. But the response should be, and there's 2 things, because we know that there will be additional variants coming down the way. First of all, is to continue to build the infrastructure. So for my state and other governors, we want to make sure our testing capacity is there. We want to make sure that we have access to the therapeutics, and that's where the federal government needs to step up. We need to make sure that there's a quick production. They need to rely upon the states for the distribution, and there's a lot of discussions about that. They need to improve that supply chain. So let's take advantage of this going down to be better prepared around the corner.
Governor Murphy, how do we not run into the testing problem we ran into pre-Omicron?
You got to preempt this clearly, and we're now getting caught up as a country. Thankfully, our cases are going down. New Jersey, New York got hit earliest on all of these waves. But I think, listen, I agree with Governor Hutchinson. We're not going to manage this to zero. We have to learn how to live with this. Please, God, there's not another significant wave. Every time you think you got this thing figured out, it humbles you.
You've decided to make the booster part of a mandate.
Yes.
You obviously have not done any mandates, and I'm well aware of the politics of Arkansas. But look, you've got a booster problem. There's been a vaccination problem, but you've got an even bigger discrepancy among political discrepancy, D's and R's, when it comes to boosters. And you've run into some problems. Do you have a new message to try to get people to get boosted?
Well, first of all, it is very important. I've got my boost, and I'm delighted with it because I think it adds a great level of protection. And so it's education. Quite frankly, the mandates that were imposed at the federal level that the Supreme Court struck down were counterproductive, as we predicted. I predicted that it increased resistance, and so our vaccination rate has actually slowed. We're continuing to go up gradually, but the heavy-handed approach doesn't work. It's got to be that education. It's got to be that consistent messaging. And so we want to improve those numbers, but the right path is not by the mandate route.
Why have mandates worked for you?
Well, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the health care mandate, and that's where we've focused.
You've added the booster for the health care, right?
Tweaked it.
Before the CDC has, right?
Yep. Absolutely. We tweaked it to add boosters, and we broadened communities. So we've included corrections, other vulnerable communities.
Do you think mandates work? Because Governor Hutchinson thinks they've been counterproductive.
Yeah.
What say you?
Well, when the U.S. Supreme Court has upheld the Biden administration's step on health care, that was an easy step for us to take. And we know, as Governor Hutchinson said, boosters add an enormous amount more defense for you. Frankly, in New Jersey, we're underboosted. Getting folks up, I think this is a national challenge. Whether it's mandate or not, we got to get more folks boosted.
I want to talk about the political divide a little bit. Just sitting here together, you guys are some might criticize you. Right? Some of the left may criticize you. Some of the right may criticize you.
That'll be the first time for both.
It is kind of an absurd thing that this has happened. What's a way to fix it in Arkansas? Because it looks to me like the politics are going further to the right, and Arkansas is going to be more divisive. Your likely successor is probably going to play a little bit further to the right than you.
Well, the key thing is leadership. Leadership needs to set example. Phil and I, we fight in the partisan trenches in elections. We feel strongly about our respective parties. But once you get elected, you serve all the people, and you've got to find a common ground to address the problems of America and our states. And so that's setting the right example in that. That doesn't weaken us in terms of the criticism or the differences of opinion, but we have to be responsible adults whenever we're leading a state, and we've got to implement things that impact people's lives. And so to me, it's leadership, but it's also the communication. That's what the NGA does, is that it brings us together, and we're not together enough.
Governor Murphy, in the past, the governors might be an interesting group to lobby and talk about electoral reform. Is that going to be on your agenda this week? And is there a way to sort of, we see that some states are going off into some uncomfortable places. Is the NGA going to try to play a role here, or is this one of those issues that's too divisive?
Yeah, I should make one point, and Asa will want to make this. There are 39 governors here, by the way, a big contingent from both parties.
The three largest aren't, for what it's worth, Newsom, DeSantis, and Abbott. But
still, I'll take 39.
All right, fair enough.
You'd always love to have 50, plus the territories.
On the voting question.
Yeah, listen, I think that's one where there's going to be a pretty partisan debate and divide, honestly.
And you guys probably can't come together on anything.
We're expanding it in New Jersey, and we're proud of that. We want to expand it further. I know other states are taking a different approach to that. That's probably one that we're going to have to agree to disagree, sadly, in my opinion. But there's a lot of common ground: infrastructure, education, and so on.
What do you expect to hear from the president tomorrow? You guys are meeting with him, the governor's ball tomorrow, right?
We are. Yeah. And first of all, I expect his administration has really been responsive on questions that we've had about the infrastructure spending. I expect the president to talk about bipartisanship. I'd actually like to see that implemented in the policies that go forward. But this is an annual tradition I expect will go very well.
And as you said, with an infrastructure bill to tell you how to implement, I imagine everybody's going to be in a pretty good mood on that front. Thank you both. Appreciate it and coming on together.